good day to brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy, Mealsy. Back with Hometown Commander. Back for another episode of $50 Upgrades. The show where I take the Precon in question and give it my $50 upgrade. Today we're looking at the Miracle Worker Precon for Duskmourn, headed up by Aminatou Veil Piercer. An Esper commander that cares about a miracle, a mechanic where you can play the first card you draw each turn at instant speed for reduction here on Aminatou, but specifically Aminatou cares about enchantments. So the whole deck's going to care about enchantments, but what I decided to do for my $50 upgrade is the same thing I decided to do for my actual brew for Aminatou, which I'm going to link below, that's up on the channel today as well. And that's to take her Precon and spin it towards this new room mechanic that they introduced in Duskmourn. There's a couple rooms in the deck, as well. There's a lot of really cheap rooms in the main set, so I thought, why not spin it that way? She can still reduce us playing them. There's a lot of great ones that have fun abilities. And then we're going to supplement that with a whole bunch of great Enchantment Matters effects. Really take advantage of the different things that we'll talk about as we go through the 24 cards I added to the deck for $50. We'll talk a little bit about what I removed. I'll show you all the cards I removed. I'll make some notes. I'm not going to go card by card like I would with the ads, but I think you'll kind of understand what my goal was for the deck. And then we'll do a couple play tests at the end with the Precon with my cards added, just to kind of show you what our intention is there. But let's get into what we have tried to add. The first is, well, it just feels right. Aminatou's Planeswalker, Aminatou the Fate Shifter. An Esper Planeswalker. On the +1 lets you draw a card and put a card from your hand on top of your library. This is going to help us set up Aminatou's Miracle on the next turn. And the -1 can exile a permanent and bring it back under our control. This is going to help with our Constellation abilities, like the Archon of Sun's Grace on the right. Wherever an enchantment comes in, you trigger a certain ability. This can help us do that. Archon of Sun's Grace is a 3/4 flying lifelinker for 4 that anytime an enchantment comes in makes you a 2/2 Pegasus, and it gives all of our other Pegasi lifelink. This just feels right. It allows us to go a little bit wide and allow us to start having another threat to our opponents. Blind Obedience is an enchantment I absolutely love. I refuse to not play this card in a deck that could play it and take any advantage of it. A 2-mana white enchantment that says artifacts and creatures our opponents control enter the battlefield tapped, and we get to start extorting all of our spells by paying extra white or black. Everybody loses one and we gain that much life. I love the card. It helps because our opponent's things coming in tapped and is going to allow us to potentially have more windows to attack in and get into our opponents a little bit easier. Boon of the Spirit Realm is an example of a card that I really want to miracle off the top. A 5-mana enchantment with a Constellation that says whenever it or another enchantment comes in, you put a blessing counter on it, and creatures get +1/+1 for each blessing counter on it. It doesn't take very long in this deck with how many enchantments we're playing to make Boon be a real problem for our opponents, and it's going to allow us to make even those 2/2 Pegasi or even 1/1 tokens we're making off of other enchantments be real threats. Brain Surge, like the Brainstorm that's in the Precon, are both interesting spells for 2 reasons. One, it allows us to draw a certain amount of cards. It puts a certain amount of cards from our hand back on top of our library in any order. And 2, because I think in a normal deck, you're just drawing, 4 and you're putting maybe 1 or 2 back that you need to get around your hand size or things like that. But in a deck like this, we can then put cards back that we want to miracle on top of our deck so we can take advantage of using them. Now, if we Brain Surge on an opponent's turn, the first of the 4 cards we draw off Brain Surge will have a miracle check if Aminatou's out. But I think mainly we're looking to Brain Surge and Brainstorm to set up the top of our deck and make sure we have that next play right for Aminatou. Speaking of a spell we want reduced with Aminatou, Cacophony Unleashed. This is a 7-mana black enchantment. This is when it comes in, if it was cast, you destroy all non-land or non-enchantment creatures. This is important because not a lot of people are going to be playing enchantment creatures. It means hopefully this can be one-sided. The only problem with Cacophony Unleashed is that Aminatou is not an enchantment creature. So you will lose Aminatou if she's out, but I think it's a great price to pay because whenever it or another enchantment comes in, until end of turn, we can turn it into a 6/6 with Menace and Death Touch that's still an enchantment. So it can be a future big attacker on every turn as long as enchantments are coming in. Well, we talked about spinning the deck towards rooms, and so we needed to add some rooms, and the key room that we're adding to the deck is Central Elevator and Promising Stairs. I'm realizing that there's probably people who are watching this video that have no idea what a room is, whether you haven't paid attention to the main set or you're reading this video because you're interested in the deck and maybe you want to know some cards to add. So I'm going to briefly just take a minute to explain to you what a room is. And I don't mean this condescendingly. I think it's good to know what I'm trying to do. So a room is an enchantment subtype. There on the left you can see it, Central Elevator and Promising Stairs. This is a split card. From your hand you can choose to cast either side. It's going to come in and immediately unlock that door. Each half of it are called doors. When they unlock, you're going to get the ability of the side of it that you cast, and it's going to remain on the battlefield with that side unlocked. At any other time, you can pay the cost of the other side of that room and unlock that door at sorcery speed, with the goal of potentially having both sides unlocked eventually, right? Central Elevator and Promising Stairs is the single most important room in our deck for really the Promising Stairs side, but I think both sides are really good. On the Elevator side, when we unlock it, we search our library for a room that doesn't share a name with the room we already have, put it in our hand and shuffle. And on the Promising Stairs side, at the beginning of our turn, we get to surveil one, and we win the game if there are 8 or more unlocked doors of rooms we control. This is a really important ability because we have more than enough rooms and doors in the deck to fulfill this. This is one way we can potentially win the game, and it's one we want to build towards. On the other side of the screen, you see Dazzling Theater and Prop Room. Dazzling Theater gives all of our creature spells Convoke, meaning we can tap creatures to help pay for the cost of them. And then Prop Room allows us to untap all of our creatures during each other player's untap step, which is a great thing, giving all of our creatures effectively vigilance, allowing them to attack and untap. Copy Enchantment is a very good card in a deck like this and in blue enchantment decks, because blue has a lot of ways to copy other enchantments that are on the battlefield. I wanted to make sure, well, I put these here alphabetically, but I think it's really good that Copy Enchantment shows up on this slide, because I need to talk about one rules interaction with rooms that I had to look up when I was originally brewing the deck, and that was what happens if I copy a room enchantment on the battlefield. The way it works is, if you were to copy a room enchantment on the stack, so let's say I cast Central Elevator and I copied the spell, I would get another copy of that room with Central Elevator unlocked. But if I go to copy an enchantment, a room that's already sitting on the battlefield, whether it has a door unlocked or not, I'm going to get a copy of that room with no doors unlocked. The reason is because a door being unlocked is a trait of a spell, or a trait of it, the trait of the spell when you cast it, and not physically a part of the card. It's kind of odd, but I think it's good to remember, because if it wasn't that way, I think Copy Enchantment and Estrid's Invocation would just be very good. But that's okay. I still think there's some rooms that are worth copying, whether I have to unlock the doors again. But I think it's just a good thing to keep in the back of your mind as we look at this room style way. You're going to see that I added Estrid's Invocation and I added Copy Enchantment. But the reason is because we have a ton of other enchantments in the deck that I'd be happy to copy as well. But in the case where I still want to copy a room, I have the option to do that. Defiled Crypt and Cadaver Lab. On the Crypt side, whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, you can make a 2/2 horror. And on the Cadaver Lab side, we can return target creature card from our graveyard to our hand. Dollmaker's Shop and Porcelain Gallery is probably one of my favorite rooms that's been released at this point. On the Dollmaker side, whenever one or more creatures we control attack a player that are non-toy creatures attack a player, we get to make a toy creature token. And then on the Porcelain Gallery side, each of our creatures' base power and toughness is equal to the number of creatures we control, meaning more creatures, the bigger they are. This ability works really well with some of these cards that make tokens every time we cast an enchantment, or every time we have an enchantment come in. Gallery is a great ability, and one I happily want to see. I apologize. Estrid's Invocation is probably one of my favorite enchantment copiers, because it comes in as a copy of enchantment, but at the beginning of your upkeep, you can exile this and bring it back in to copy another one. It can basically bounce and come back in as a copy of another enchantment you control, basically allowing you to always have a copy of the enchantment that you want the most and have 2 of them. Ghostly Dancers we're bringing in from the main set. Whenever it enters, we return an enchantment card from our graveyard to our hand, or unlock a locked door of a room you control. So this is cool because we don't have to pay the cost to unlock that door. And then this is going to show up the new Eerie keyword, which is basically just the old Constellation keyword like we saw in Archon of Sun's Grace, but it just adds whenever you fully unlock a room. So whenever an enchantment control comes in, or whenever we fully unlock both doors of a room, we make a 3/1 spirit creature token with flying. So not bad. And I like Ghostly Dancer because it works with the card on the other side of the screen, Hallowed Haunting. This is one of my favorite enchantment cards that you can play in these colors. Whenever we cast an enchantment, we make a spirit cleric with power and toughness as a star, where stars are the number of spirits we control. So as we make more spirits, they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then as long as we have 7 or more enchantments, all of our creatures have flying and vigilance. Of course, these work well because that Ghostly Dancer is making spirits, and so we have other enchantments that make spirits. So this is going to allow them to get big. But again, I like that they work together, as well as this new art for Hallowed Haunting I absolutely love. Entryway and Rotunda. On the entryway side, whenever you unlock it, you make a Glimmer enchantment creature token. And then on the Rotunda side, you get to put some counters into creatures. Not one of the sexier ones, but it is nice to have to have another one to add to the pile. Inquisitive Glimmer from the main set. All enchantments cost 1 less, and unlocks you pay cost 1 less. The top ability basically means that miracle cost reduction is 5 total, making a lot of things a lot cheaper. And then unlocking for 1 less is important because there's not a lot of ways to cheapen that, so I really like that. Path to Exile, just a little bit more removal. We have swords in the deck and a couple other good ones. It's just Path is cheap. It's good at what it does, exiling a creature. And unless you're exiling someone's commander, that creature is gone. So it's important to play exile removal as well as destroy removal, and Path is very good at that. In my opinion, it is slightly worse than Plowshares because Plowshares just gains your opponent's swords, gains your opponent life. This one gives them a basic land, which can be technically worse, but if it means getting rid of a problem part of a combo or a problem creature for a basic land, sometimes it just has to be done, and Path is great for that. Cistern and Oubliette. On the Cistern side, whenever you put 1 or more cards from your library to the graveyard, each opponent loses 1 life for each card among them. This is great for when we're surveilling off of Aminatou to get some life in that way. And then Oubliette, when you unlock it, mills 3 and brings a creature back from the graveyard to the battlefield. So not a bad ability at all by any means. Propaganda going to give us a little bit of protection for our opponents attacking us. They have to pay 2 for each creature attacking us. Thoughtrender Lamy is a card I really like. Comes down for just 2 black with Aminatou's Miracle. If we draw it, whenever it or another enchantment enters, each opponent discards a card. A way to just start chunking through our opponent's hands. Tunnel and Aquarium, just another role player. Surveil 2 on the Tunnel side. And then on the Aquarium side, we get to Manifest Dread and put a counter on it. Manifest Dread isn't that important, so I won't mention it. You'll see it on some other cards from Duskmourn if you do some research. But this is, again, just another role player room to make sure we can get to that 8 for that other room. Victor of Valgavoth's Seneschal has that Eerie ability whenever an enchantment enters or whenever you fully unlock a room. Surveil 2 if it's the first time you did it in a turn. Each opponent discards a card if it's the second time. If it's the third time, you bring a creature back from your graveyard. I like it. I think the Surveil 2 is just good enough on its own. Because if you're pairing Victor with any way to draw cards when you're casting enchantments or when enchantments come in, you can stack it so you can get the Surveil before you draw to know what you're drawing. Zur is probably my single favorite card for the Rooms decks. I will be brewing Zur for the channel coming up, so if you're interested in seeing Zur specifically for this, you'll just have to wait a week or so. But it says that for 2 mana, you can make non-or enchantment you control become a creature in addition to its other types, and its base power toughness is each equal to its mana value. The cool part about Rooms are that its mana value is equal to the total amount of mana value of the unlocked doors, meaning that Unholy Annex and a Ritual Chamber that are to the right of it, when both of them are unlocked, would become an 8/8 with Zur for just 2 mana. I love Zur. I think Zur fits this deck so well. And like I said, I'll be brewing Zur for the channel for Rooms. If you want to see a different side of this deck, do things a little bit differently, Zur will be there as well. And then Unholy Annex and Ritual Chamber. Annex is an extra draw on each end step, but if you control a demon, everybody else loses 2 life and you gain 2 life, but if you don't, you lose 2 life, and then Ritual Chamber can make you a demon. This is a little bit of a punishment, right, of losing some life for drawing, but I think it's still important to get some extra card draw. You could just as easily play something like Phyrexian Arena instead, or Black Market Connections, right, if you have a little bit more budget. But I like Unholy Annex because it's a room, and it matters for what we're trying to do. As far as our removal go, we needed to remove 24 cards. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you all 24 cards I removed. I'll make comments about the ones that I want to make comments about. First off, it feels bad to remove Aminatou's Augury, a 8 mana sorcery. It says you exile the top 8 cards of your library. You may put a land from among them on the battlefield. And then for each non-land card type, you may cast a spell of that type from among the exiled cards without paying their mana cost. It is the only card to mention Aminatou by name. You know, it's a great card. I just feel like as we're spinning this more towards rooms, and our support for the deck got pushed more towards the rooms, fun things like this just had to come out to make more room for the cards we really want to see. Oromancer's fun. Whenever it comes in, you can return an enchantment from your graveyard to your hand, but I'm not that worried about it. Enchantments are hard things to remove. The removal that hits them hits a lot of other things as well. So we have other ways in the deck to bring enchantments back. Dream Eater seems really good for this deck, getting us Surveil, but again, focusing more on the enchantments means creatures like this could easily be something else. I cut a couple miracle spells that actually have miracle on them, because I think the enchantments are more important, but Entreat the Angels is a really fun card at making some angel tokens. Metamorphosis Fanatic, another miracle card I cut. Life Insurance is a card I actually really like. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you lose a life and make a treasure. And it has Extort, which Extort is such a great ability, like we talked about on Blind Obedience. But I'm not playing a ton of creatures, and a lot of the enchantments are making tokens, so I just wonder how much Life Insurance is really going to pay off. But Mind Stone is a card I would think about bringing back in. It's a great ramp and artifact and can sack to draw a card. I like Mind Stone a ton. I just needed to cut some things, and Mind Stone was one of those things I felt like needed to go. Nightmare Shepherd is an interesting enchantment creature. I just don't think it's worth the squeeze. Whenever a non-token creature dies, you may exile it, make a copy of it, except it's a nightmare, destroys other types. Again, I like the idea. Again, with the lack of creatures we have, I just don't see it being the best thing in the world. I took out like Read the Bones because I don't think the card draw is that important. I'd much rather play something like Brain Surge or Brainstorm, where I can put cards from my hand back on top of my library to miracle in, rather than just straight up get card draw. Return the Dust came out for things like Path to Exile, just better removal, and we have some good removal in the deck. Starfield Mystic is probably a card that's going to surprise some people, everything costing 1 less. And then when enchantment goes from the graveyard into the graveyard from the battlefield, put a counter on it. I like the reduction. I just swapped it out for that Glimmer to get the opening reduction as well. And then I like Timely Ward to protect our commander, but I think there's other ways to do it. And again, the focus was to get more of our theme in the deck and make sure that every time we're drawing a card, we're getting more of it. But let's get into our playtester 2 here so we can kind of see how the deck is running with our $50 upgrades. Keeping a 4-lander here with a way to get a basic land of any type. Portent, which is in the deck. Look at the top 3 of target player's library. Put them back in the order. You may have that player shuffle and draw a card beginning the next turn's upkeep. So this can either let us look at the top 3 of our deck to make some decisions or look at an opponent. Shark Typhoon, which is a great card to cheat in, but it does come in the Precon. Every time we cast an on-creature spell, we make Shark tokens and then Commander's First. So we're looking at a turn 4 Aminatou no matter what. If we can get another mana rock, we might be able to get to a turn 3 Aminatou, but I think we're going to be here turn 4 no matter what. It's turn 1 we draw the Secret Arcade and Dusty Parlor. This was exclusive to this deck. On the Arcade side, non-land permanents you control are enchantments in addition to the other types, same thing with the spells you cast. And on the Parlor side, whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you put counters equal to its mana value on a creature you control. I think I'll play the Temple of Deceit here turn 1 to hit the scry. We scry Ondu Spirit Dancer, which is a great card. I think I'll happily keep it on top. Lets us copy the first enchantment that enters each turn. Let's see. Turn 2, I'm not really seeing anything I want to do right for 2 mana. I think I'd rather just kind of get this storefront out of the way. We have the Swamp for the Tainted Field to turn it on. We do have some white cards in hand. We have some blue cards in hand. Here's another white source here, so I think I'll just go get an island. And we'll gain a life off the storefront, and it does come in tapped. So that is our turn 2. Well, Arcane Signet was just one turn too late. Otherwise, we could have played it last turn and gotten a turn 3 Aminatou. But I think we will go ahead and get that Commander Sphere down. I think I'm just going to go ahead and port, and let's take a look at the top 3 of our deck. This should allow us to take a look at what we'll be able to get. All of these are fine. Like I like Spirit's Sister's Call, but I think it's a little too early to see something. So I think I'm just going to actually take the shuffle here and see what we can get ourselves into. Turn 4, we draw Mason Enchantress. Okay, that's going to get us some card draw. So we'll play the land for a turn and get Aminatou down. So next turn we can start our Miracle chances. And we've got at least 2 pips of every color, meaning that even some of those double color enchants that we have are going to be able to come down. So we'll go to move to our next turn. We're going to Surveil 2, seeing an Utter End and a Plains. Wouldn't be bad to get another land. Utter End's a great removal spell. We don't have any removal, so I kind of like the idea of both of them. Really wished I could have cheated something out this turn. So I think we'll put the Plains on top and just draw it this turn and get it down. So that's 6. I could play the Shark Typhoon, potentially start making some sharks. I could also undo Spirit Dancer, start doubling the things that come in. If I want to undo, I can actually Arcane Signet into undo Spirit Dancer, which is what I'd probably do. Pay 2 for that, and then I've got 5 for that. Just so that if we do Miracle into a good enchantment, I can get a second copy of it. And if not, maybe we play the Shark Typhoon next turn. So we'll go to our turn 6. Again, no enchantments. I'll put the Plains on top again, draw for turn, play the Plains, and then I'm gonna cast that Shark Typhoon, and undo Spirit Dancer is gonna give me a copy of it. So now next time I cast a non-creature spell, I'm getting 2 sharks instead of 1. I still have 2 mana left over, but there's nothing in my hand for 2 mana. So we will just go into next turn with a great setup. We reveal Utter End and Boon of the Spirit Realm. There we go. Boon's great. That's exactly what we're looking for. We're going to keep it on top. And we're going to go ahead and cast it for just double white because we get that 4 reduction from Miracle. What's going to happen is we're going to get 2 sharks because we cast a 5 mana non-creature spell. All right, Boon's going to come in, triggering itself and undo Spirit Dancer, so it's going to get a counter. Undo Spirit Dancer is going to make a copy of it, triggering the Boon copy and this. So now all of our creatures are getting +3/+3, so those sharks are 8/8s in the air, and now all of these guys have that buffs as well. And we're in great shape. We still got 6 mana left for the turn. We can still play some things this turn. So I like the idea of getting the Mason Enchantress down. And then we could still get the Parlor down just to get 2 more 3/3 sharks. Because we did cast an enchantment that was 3 mana value. That is going to give me a card draw off of Mason Enchantress. To get that Utter End, this is going to trigger both the boons. Now, +5/+5, and I think we're in a great space here. People can get rid of the sharks, but they really got to get rid of those enchantments. Otherwise, this is just going to keep happening. And I think we're set up really well. Let's go into our playtest number 2. Keeping a 2-lander with Arcane Signet. So we're just 1 land off field. We've got a couple ways to dig. We've got Brain Surge. We've got Underwater Tunnel to Surveil. We've got Mesa. I like it. I think we're in good shape. We're probably in good shape getting towards Aminatou. We draw a Time Wipe. Okay, so a board wipe. Never bad to have in hand. We'll get that Tainted Isle down and get into turn 2. Play the Plains into the Arcane Signet. Now we're going to potentially run into a problem with Tainted Isle here because we have to have a swamp in order for it to tap for blue or black. So we do need to be a little bit careful with what we do. But with that mana, I think I'm going to play that Bottomless Pool. Just go ahead and Surveil 2 because I want to make sure we get into important things, get into more lands. We don't hit another land. I like Propaganda. I like Moonblast Cleric. I think I'm going to bin the Cleric, keep the Propaganda on top. So we're going to go into turn 3, just play the Propaganda, protect ourselves a little bit. I would have loved to have gotten a land there, but that's A-okay. I think it's good to see these ones where we're going to kind of fight for that. Okay. We see Hall. Hall's great, but we're still 1 colored mana off of Aminatou. I have blue or black. and I have white, but I don't have the other right because we don't control swamp for Tainted Elves. So we need to kind of start digging for it. So I think I'm going to Brain Surge, draw 4, and I get to put 2 from my hand back on top. We'll put Time Wipe. Let's think about this. If I'm going to play Aminatou next turn, I want to think about what I'm putting where, right? So I could potentially, right, cheat something in if I do it the right way. So put this and then Time Wipe. That way I draw the Time Wipe next turn. I can play the... we'll play the river this turn. And then go to our next turn, drawing that Time Wipe that we put on top. Now we can get Aminatou down 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 2 mana left. Not much I can do with it. That's okay. I mean, we wanted to get that down and get it moving, so now we can get into our miracle. So we'll go into our next turn. We have that Cistern and Cacophony. Cacophony is a great enchantment. Problem is here is it would get rid of Aminatou, so I don't want to do it yet. But we can happily cast the Crypt, bring it down for just 1 black. Whenever one or more cards leave our graveyard, we make a horror enchantment creature token. Did I play an extra land? Oh, I never hit next turn, that's why. Play the Plains. If it's worth wiping the board, you know, we could Time Wipe, pick up Aminatou, and wipe the board. But I think otherwise we play Mesa Enchantress. I think about, I guess maybe we could, I mean, I could copy the Propaganda maybe to draw a card. Draw that Cacophony from the Mesa Enchantress. And then I'm still missing a way to turn, you know, turn the rooms into like really good value. You know, I just feel like we're missing something, but that's okay. Remember that Hall can put enchantments in our graveyard back on top. We have a way to get a creature back with Cadaver Lab. Maybe I do that this turn. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Maybe we do this to get this Moonblessed Cleric back. And then I think we can play the Cleric this turn. 3/6. No, we can't. We'll have to do it next turn. But that can put an enchantment of our choice on top, effectively letting us pick something. Swamp Island. Okay, bin the island, take the swamp, draw it for turn. Now we can Moonblessed Cleric and basically just get our choice, right, of things. I think it makes sense to go get the elevator now because we can just unlock some rooms. The one side, right, the elevator side is going to get us another room, meaning we should be able to get up to our 8 doors to unlock for it. Let's see, that was 3. I've got like 5 mana left. I've already unlocked that. Let's unlock the aquarium. Well, no, we won't, because we don't want to manifest dread that. So I guess we'll just have to wait with some mana, maybe scare our opponents into thinking maybe we have something. Go to the next turn, bin the swamp. We'll miracle in the elevator, which lets us get a room of our choice and put it into our hand. I like Dollmaker's Shop. Let's just get that one. Play the Dollmaker's Shop, draw a card. I think we have enough mana to unlock Promising Stars. And then, you know, we just need one more turn to unlock the other half of this room, and I think we're in good shape. Kind of an odd playtest there. The hand just got odd, and we tried our best to get through it. But let me know, what do you think of my $50 upgrade to Miracle Worker? I'd love to hear your comments in the comment section below. What did you do to your Precon? I'd love to have a conversation about with you down in the comment section below, and I catch you guys next.